Oh, wow. Some technical delays here. For some reason, woke up and my internet was just completely out. Had to reset the router, restart all the computers. I mean, as you can see here on my desk, all of these computers are hooked up to the network and it just wasn't communicating right. So I had to do some quick, fast engineering after producing everything for the show. So happy Friday, guys. October 3rd, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. 30 minutes late or so, but I'm getting launched here and get you what you need to know to get on with your day. So appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning. Yesterday was pre-recorded. Today is live, but a little bit delayed just because of the technical stuff. But good to see you guys jumping into the chat room anyways. Apologize for my tardiness. My mom told me, she said, don't tell people you're late. It's just kind of how it goes. I want to be honest with you guys. All right, so go to thecentersquare.com. You'll see headlines for today. You can also get those in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. Just click subscribe to the newsletter and you'll get that. But if you wake up with us here each and every weekday morning, you know how to plug in, right, with YouTube, but tons of other stuff going on with the Center Square, not just in Illinois. A couple of things we're going to tackle today. Energy prices. We're seeing nearly 50% energy price increases over last year, even though Ameren's saying, hey, your prices aren't going up as much. Got that issue, but energy policies in Illinois focused on renewable energy like wind and solar and now battery storage. There's been ongoing conversation in both the House and Senate committees on legislation they could tackle when they return for veto session, believe it or not, in about 11 days. So we're going to be counting down for that here coming up. So stay tuned. We'll tackle that. But next, we've got Illinois State Police who have announced that they are setting up a perimeter for protests outside of the ICE facility in Broadview. So we'll revisit some of what was talked about this past week when it comes to public safety, protests, immigration enforcement, and more. So that's next here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Each and every weekday morning here, I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for taking time with us, and it's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Illinois State Police setting up a protest perimeter around the ICE facility in Broadview. We're looking at a picture that ISP put out of the restricted area, the existing fence and protest areas, and media designated areas as well. Interesting to see that as we reflect on the past week's rhetoric from Democrats and Republicans about public safety around immigration enforcement. As we started this week, Governor J.B. Pritzker saying he expects military on the streets in Chicago. Have yet to see that officially released from the White House, but here we are. It's Friday, heading into a weekend where we could see more protests outside of that ICE facility in Broadview. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of the Center Square, Illinois. This is Illinois in Focus Daily, and thanks for waking up with us each and every weekday morning here. So again, let's go to this news release from Illinois State Police. Yesterday, they said that they're setting up a unified command established to help protect First Amendment rights and public safety in Broadview. Let's go through this news release. It's a joint command with the Police Department of Broadview, the Cook County Sheriff's Office, the Illinois State Police, the Illinois Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management Services, and Cook County government. But it says at the request of the Broadview Police Department, the Cook County Sheriff's Office, and the Illinois State Police, with the assistance of Cook County Department of Emergency Management and Regional Security and Illinois Emergency Management Agency, have established a temporary unified command to coordinate public safety measures in Broadview around the facility being used by U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement. The Unified Command setting up designated areas where people can safely exercise their rights, which will support the safety of the public and ensure vehicular traffic can access roads in the area. The goal of the Unified Command is to protect the health and safety of all individuals, including nearby Broadview residents and businesses, and enable peaceful expression of First Amendment rights. The agencies involved in the operation will neither assist nor obstruct federal enforcement immigration statuses in compliance with state and federal law. Uniformed officers will be on site to help direct people to the designated areas. In addition to protecting the safety and rights of people peacefully expressing their views, these measures will also ensure that third parties that need access to the facility, including attorneys and legal representatives, people bringing medicine to detainees, and representatives from foreign consulates, will maintain clear points of access to the facility. So again, it lays out a map of the protest areas, the safety lane to allow emergency vehicle access, and designated media areas with existing fences lined out there. So interesting to see Illinois State Police lay that out. But here we are with just a little bit of a flash of what we've heard over the past week from Governor J.B. Pritzker and House Minority Leader Tony McCombie.
Agents reportedly unholstered their guns and pointed them at protesters. In their own words, ICE intended to unleash, quote, a shit show in the Broadview community. Without provocation and acting like jackbooted thugs.
When rhetoric turns dangerous, this is used to disrupt, damage the very stability of our nation, and it's put at risk. We've seen these tensions rise here at home, driven at times by our very own governor, who just yesterday called agents jackbooted thugs.
So again, that was Leader McCombie, Governor Pritzker, just a little back and forth to give you a sample of what we're going to be hearing here for this segment. But let's go ahead and hear from the governor. Earlier this week, Monday, he opened up and said, hey, he's getting notice that there's going to be 100 military personnel sent to Chicago to assist in the protection of property and personnel for the federal government because of what happened last weekend, where you had violent clashes and a couple of people arrested with firearms up against the fence area at the Broadview facility. So the governor, he talked about how people need to stand up against this, he said.
In Broadview, people non-violently holding signs and chanting against brutality, expressing their First Amendment rights, have been regularly attacked with chemical agents like tear gas, pepper spray, rubber bullets, and flashbangs. Agents reportedly unholstered their guns and pointed them at protesters. In their own words, ICE intended to unleash, quote, a shit show in the Broadview community. Without provocation and acting like jackbooted thugs, ICE has attacked and detained members of the press, including an independent journalist.
He went on to talk more about the stories and the anecdotes from the protesters' perspective there, not necessarily from the ICE officers on the ground there. But Pritzker went on to talk about how people need to stand up.
The state of Illinois and all of us will continue to fight this with everything that we have. So people of Illinois, we need your help. Get out your cell phones, record and narrate what you see. Put it on social media. Peacefully ask for badge numbers and identification. Speak up for your neighbors. We need to let the world know that this is happening and that we won't stand for it.
And he, of course, later we'll hear and talked about peaceful protests. But, he was taking questions about the protesters' behavior in Broadview.
Well, I think that it's clear that there are no rules for ICE, that they literally just believe they have the run of the place that they can take out their aggression on the people of Broadview, on the people of the city of Chicago, that the federal government and the President of the United States have just given them carte blanche to do whatever it is that they want. Let me be clear. There have been about 1,500 people that have been detained by ICE in the city of Chicago and the surrounding areas. 1,500 people. 60% of them, no criminal record. 60%. Now think about that. Listen, terrific when they get somebody who's a criminal and take them off the streets. Fantastic. But this is not the way law enforcement ought to be allowed to operate.
And again, the governor saying that's not how law enforcement should be allowed to operate. House Minority Leader Tony McCombie and other Republicans held a news conference earlier this week talking about increased threats against ICE, and they offered up a couple of different solutions dealing with reversing the Trust Act, the state's sanctuary policies. You've also got a measure that was promoted to have distances between ICE and other law enforcement conducting official activities and protesters, giving 14-foot distance between law enforcement officers conducting official activities. But McCombie said that the rhetoric from Pritzker isn't helping the situation.
This is not just a trend, it's an active threat. If we remain silent, small sparks will ignite into uncontrollable fires. Now is the time to speak out assertively and restore order before more violence is enabled. Make no mistake. These are ideologically motivated acts. This kind of violence has no place in our country. I have taken every opportunity to speak up and speak out against political and targeted violence against the reckless rhetoric that fuels this division. When rhetoric turns dangerous, this is used to disrupt, damage the very stability of our nation, and it's put at risk. We've seen these tensions rise here at home, driven at times by our very own governor, who just yesterday called agents jackbooted thugs.
So we'll hear a little bit of the governor in a moment talk about peaceful protests, but the Department of Homeland Security putting out this news release yesterday. 2 vehicles used as weapons against ICE officers in Operation Midway Blitz and separate incidents yesterday. The continued anti-ICE rhetoric spewed by Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson continues to ICE law enforcement facing a more than 1,000% increase in assaults. The Department of Homeland Security condemns violence against all federal law enforcement. As just yesterday in Illinois, criminally illegal aliens used their vehicles as weapons against federal law enforcement. ICE officers were targets of 2 separate vehicular assaults in the Chicago metro area, in Bensonville, Illinois, and again in Norridge, Illinois. Criminally illegal aliens weaponized their vehicles in desperate attempts to ram and injure officers carrying their sworn duty to uphold our nation's immigration laws. And you could see a couple of images there. Thankfully, none of them were killed because of these deranged criminal attacks on law enforcement. This is exactly what happened when Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, and other sanctuary politicians demonize ICE and encourage illegal aliens to resist law enforcement. That's according to Tricia McLaughlin, the acting secretary of DHS. So you can see, again, some of the other headlines here. And DHS also highlighting that all throughout Operation Midway Blitz, they've arrested more than 80%, or rather more than 800 illegal aliens. And this comes, of course, as the governor and others have said, 60% of those that they've arrested don't have criminal convictions. That means 40% do, and 800 arrested altogether. You can kind of, splice the numbers yourself there. But they go on to talk about all of the different crimes, some of these 800 plus illegal aliens they've already nabbed in Operation Midway Blitz. Deals with some of the worst of the worst, they say. They're talking about, pedophiles, murderers, gang members, rapists, domestic abusers. So getting them off the streets. But back to the governor talking about protests. He says that it should be peaceful.
If you're going to protest peacefully. Look, I think it's fine to be in opposition to the president's views and opposition to the president's policies. There's nothing that incites people about that. Who's inciting people? Stephen Miller is calling Democrats fascists. The President of the United States is trying to label the Democratic Party as if it's some terrorist organization. Who is inciting people?
So, I mean, this is after, of course, the governor has called the president authoritarian, dictator, a whole host of other things, MAGA, characterizing them certain ways, and congressional Republicans characterize certain ways. So, the rhetoric here obviously is something that is showing a pretty stark divide. Back to McCombie, she said if it's really a problem with ICE enforcing immigration law, then send the police.
If there's something going on there, why is the governor sending citizens to this site? Why is he not sending law enforcement, his law enforcement under his jurisdiction, the Illinois State Police or Chicago Police? Why is he sending citizens into a battleground? I would highly doubt that ICE was targeting anybody from the media. They're doing their job trying to protect themselves, the facility, and the detainees.
Now, joining Leader McCombie was State Representative Jeff Kiker, who proposed a couple of different laws. One in particular would allow for 14-foot distance between official law enforcement activities and protesters. And he says that police are under assault.
Whether serving a simple traffic stop or a warrant, whether it's ICE or local police, we've seen officers mobbed, leading to situations that spiral into more aggressive but entirely avoidable outcomes. We're calling today for elected officials to make changes to offer safer environments for all: law enforcement, people voicing their opposition, and journalists covering the news of the day. Everyone deserves to work in a safe environment, even if you disagree with them. Besides incidents involving ICE, we saw a perfect example of this just last week when a Chicago peacekeeper interfered and even threw a punch at officers attempting to apprehend a suspect fleeing in a stolen car. We must bring down the temperature, and political leaders need to stop the use of aggressive rhetoric that's putting lives at risk. Our law enforcement officers all put on the uniform with the intent to protect and serve. And today that calling is under attack.
So we've got the prospect of more protests, but will we see the same level of conflict that we saw last week in Broadview, especially now with Illinois State Police setting up a unified command structure to have fencing and specific free speech zones, so to speak? Governor J.B. Pritzker earlier this week said he's been in talks with local law enforcement and getting them what they need.
They've asked, yeah.
They've asked it. And what might that be, and have you decided on that?
Things like gas masks.
Okay.
So things that a normal police department, especially a small one like Broadview, might not have. And so they're just asking for support in that way.
Will we see these gas masks needing to be used by local police because of protests against ICE outside the Broadview facility this weekend? We'll do what we can to keep up on it and keep you posted. So be sure to stay with us. Go to thecentersquare.com, get the newsletter in your inbox each morning, and follow us here on YouTube. Click like, subscribe, notification bell. You know the routine. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, each and every weekday morning here with you for The Center Square.
There's also provisions in there too that say if the lights are going to go out, then we can extend those timelines on decarbonization, right? Keep the coal or a gas plant longer if the commission finds that it has to.
You promise you're going to make the right decisions, right, to lower the cost, because right now it's all about costs for us, because that's what we're hearing as legislators.
And the price of energy in Illinois continues to go up, maybe not as much as it was anticipated, but still about 50% higher than what it was this time last year. As legislators prepare to come back for fall veto session, they could take up more changes to Illinois energy policy. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Surely you've felt the pinch from your energy bill going up. In residential areas, it's one thing. For a business owner, it's another. I've heard stories of people seeing their energy bills at a big business go from $10,000 a month to $40,000 a month. How are they supposed to make up that difference every month? You've got just a whole host of concerns, and understanding the background here. Several years ago, the governor signed the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which essentially set up a runway for the closure of coal-fired power plants in Illinois. That base load generating capacity of coal-fire powered plants, and how that adds to the base load energy needed for our society to operate as it does. But of course, concerns over environmental issues and the goal of decarbonization. There have been efforts in the Democrat-controlled legislature to get away from coal-fired power plants and other greenhouse emission releasing energy production, regardless of all of the different types of systems that are put onto a lot of modern coal-fired power plants. Obviously, there's still the issue of coal ash and what to do with that environmental concern, but ultimately, you've got Illinois on that path to get rid of coal-fired power plants. And that's part of the reason that the energy market has reacted the way it has, according to the grid operators like PJM and MISO. Illinois is split between these two grid operators, and they go out and they, manage and sell energy and such. But we've seen higher prices across the board. And they say it's partly because of decarbonization efforts, but it's also the increased demand that there is. And there's a lot of demand. You've got, AI, electric vehicles, data centers. You got Governor J.B. Pritzker up in Chicago talking about quantum computing. And I mean, that's you got to imagine, just take a significant amount of energy. But you've got several hearings that have happened in Illinois legislative committees, one being a House Committee on Energy and Utilities, another being a Senate Committee on Energy and Utilities. They've had like 3 or 4 hearings. They've got another hearing set today in one of those committees. So we're going to hear a lot more about this as they prepare to come back for fall veto session October 14th. Yesterday's hearing, nearly over 4 hours long, by the way. And here's State Senator Terry Bryant right at the top of the hearing with State Senator Steve Stottlemyre talking about an 800-page amendment to a House bill that the Senate may take up.
Last hearing, there was indication that the language was not going to be right in order to repeal the nuclear moratorium.
We've flagged that for review. We'll get back to you, spokesperson Bryant.
So this measure, 800 pages, it's got tons of different things that it's adding and subtracting from state law. One thing that's been talked about is the nuclear moratorium. Should it be lifted? We did it for small modular nukes, but with the continued increased demand on energy and the increased price, that's led to even Governor J.B. Pritzker saying, yeah, we should lift the nuclear moratorium. Is that going to be part of this sweeping measure that's going to give tax credits to battery storage manufacturers and further refine things to assist and entice people to get more solar or wind and such? Not part of the hearing. They held their own news event. The Nuclear Energy Information Service said that lifting the nuclear moratorium would bring about a whole bunch of bad things, including, they said, just nuclear waste being an issue.
If you repeal the moratorium, the barn door is open, and we will have no one but ourselves to blame for that.
Again, that's David Kraft with the Nuclear Information Service. State Senator Shu Rezin got into an interesting back and forth with the Illinois Commerce Commission executive director about, just all of these, priorities that the state's put into state law about decarbonization, focusing on renewables. She says it's just not going to cut it for the demands that there are.
The reality of what we're facing in the future with the need to put power on quickly in the cheapest way is not going to fit within what you're telling us.
She said that the issue of natural gas has not been part of this equation, and she says it should be. It's much cheaper to set up a nuclear gas peaker plant than it is to set up a whole bunch of battery storage facilities connected to 1,500 acres of solar panels and 12 miles worth of windmills. She says it's just not going to cut it. And she says natural gas is really where a focus should be allowed to happen.
We truly are interested in making sure we have enough power so we don't have brownouts. We heard people that from third parties testify, we need natural gas. We need to build out natural gas. So, and what you're seeing right now are, along with coal, you're seeing natural gas plants in our state go offline because of CEJA and the imminent, the dates that were put in place for CEJA. So they're choosing not to.
So, Resin, talking about just the law itself is worrying people that there could be brownouts and blackouts and, energy controls put in place to make sure energy is going to where it needs to go. And that could impact residential. It could impact small business, could impact farmers and such. Jonathan Feipel, he is the Illinois Commerce Commission Executive Director. And the interesting back and forth he had with Sue Resin, he says, listen, I mean, there are circuit breakers in the law for if there is a moment where they're like, oh no, we're about to lose power to hospitals and it's just going to be chaos.
But there's also provisions in there too that say if the lights are going to go out, then we can extend those timelines on decarbonization, right? Keep the coal or a gas plant longer if the commission finds that it has to.
So the commission will make that call, and something that the law allows for. But, what are the determining factors in making that call? Resin said that they feel that the legislature has been completely cut out of this, and whatever they're talking about now, possibly passing for fall veto session, impacting energy policy, is expected to increase prices for consumers.
The caps are off, which allows you to build everything out. The wind and the solar and the battery, which is expensive. So the rates are going to go up.
And she went on to say that this whole thing, just for the ICC, again, the legislators feel like they don't have any control over this.
You promise you're going to make the right decisions, right, to lower the cost. Because right now it's all about costs for us, because that's what we're hearing as legislators.
Yeah, and you can see it in your own energy bill.
You're smart people. You say a lot of buzzwords, but it's up to you and it's not up to us. But we're the ones that will hear about it. And we have zero authority here.
So the hearing went on and on and on. Lots of statements about, the importance of decarbonization and battery storage and technology. And you had, business groups there and environmental groups there. And the Illinois Farm Bureau was there. And they said they can't support the measure as it's on the table right now.
Unfortunately, this legislation fails to include a requirement for an AMA for battery storage projects. Wind and solar projects have faced a requirement in state law to have an AMA for years. And we don't understand why an energy storage project would not face the same requirement.
And this is the idea of if a battery storage facility is built on farmland, maybe eminent domain's involved, or maybe even the farmer's involved with it too, but the operator of that battery storage facility lets the battery storage facility go by the wayside. Well, who's going to take care of that property? Who's going to clean that property up and, remedy the toxic batteries that are there? So that's just one of the issues. There's also siting issues and local control issues. And Bill Bodine with the Illinois Farm Bureau said that all this combined, just it's not gonna work for them.
There's a few beneficial changes we think are included in the bill, but unfortunately it creates too many concerns and we do have to oppose it.
Too many concerns and they have to oppose it. Again, this is like the third or fourth hearing they've had on this bill, signaling that it's going to be something they bring up during fall veto session. 800 plus pages, all kinds of provisions in there about battery storage and tax credits, and there's some consumer protection stuff in there about the solar market and should people have access to the subsidies they said they were going to be able to get. If it's not available, how all that works. Just another thing we're going to have to track for you here at the Center Square when they get ready for fall veto session. There's actually another hearing on this issue later on this morning, so we'll have to be watching that, and surely it's going to be a long one. So, hey, that's why you need to be back with us Monday morning. We will, of course, get you everything you need to know for Illinois in Focus Daily, only with the Center Square. Oh my gosh, guys, interesting show. Started late actually using a totally different process because the internet communication through some of my tools wasn't necessarily working after waking up this morning. I think what happened is I have a house guest and we were watching Hackers, that old movie from what, 94, 95? Oh my gosh, hilarious. But regardless, man, I don't know if that like woke up a ghost in the machine or something, but waking up this morning, the internet was a little finicky. So appreciate you guys being here anyways, all right? I mean, even though we were 30 minutes late, like 186 of you came in and watched the show. Tons of comments. Appreciate that. Be sure to share this with your friends, family, get the headlines in your inbox, and, of course, wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily, all right? You guys have a great Friday. It is Friday, right? Yeah. All right. It's Friday, October 3rd. Just had to reset myself because it could be a long weekend. Gonna have to keep an eye on what's going on in Broadview. All right. Take care. We'll see you back here Monday morning with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Get the headlines at thecentersquare.com.